Hi guys, so I'm just trying to get the position right. So yeah, welcome to my Sunday live, Sunday the 18th of October. So I'm just over a week or so being in the new home, new place. So yeah, new things, new energy and so on. But consistency, which is also quite key and important in a ever-changing world. So yeah, my consistent is, or one of them is my Sunday live at 6 p.m. So the last live I did, I was reflecting on a questionnaire that I'd sent out last year. I was doing some research around lots of things to do with courage. It was also supporting a webinar that me and a couple of other coaches were delivering. But one of the key questions, amongst others, the most obvious one, was what did coaching actually mean to people? And there was a few things that I reflected on my last live. And so today I'm actually going to continue to share some of the points that came out from what a lot of people fed back was what courage meant for them. So one of the things that came out that was highlighted, and this had been named by a number of people, so most of the things I'd pulled out, the information highlighted, have certainly been named a number of times. So one of them was about being honest in all relationships, was the feedback about courage. So being honest in all relationships. And I sort of reflecting on this and what this can mean and may mean. And I've put a couple of thoughts down that I'd sort of reflected on and written about, and I've put up here. This can be challenging at times, because actually being honest in all relationships all of the time, you may be afraid of the reaction that you're going to get. Some of that may be based on reactions you've got from a key individual person before. Some of it may be that you've had reactions from other people, and so that creates a fear that you might get the same sort of response from another person. You can also worry that you could offend another person if you're honest. There may be times where you question if your honesty will actually be of benefit to the other person. I think that's a valid question to be considering. Just because you think it'd be good to be honest about certain things, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone else is going to think the same. Also, I've put here as well, or if your honesty is actually admitting to something that, say for example, doesn't put you in a good light. So it may change the view of how another person sees you. That, can be, when you're doing that, you're taking what I call risks. It can actually feel a little bit vulnerable as well to be sort of honest on that level. And so I think first and foremost, it's really important to be honest with yourself, never alone about being honest with other people. First and foremost, be honest with yourself. And I've put here to consider if your honesty is bringing an opportunity to learn something perhaps new about yourself or somebody else. That might be a piece to think, okay, being honest in whatever relationship that is, that may be of value and worth to consider. Another question maybe to ask is, does what you're going to share have the potential to expand the relationship, to explore it, to develop it, to take it further, to deepen it on some level? Is whatever you're going to sort of say and share, is it actually kind in terms of, is it going to allow the conversation to perhaps expand in a more positive way. Another question to consider when you're reflecting on the honesty, hi Mandy, is does it actually have the potential to enable connection? That might be another really good question to ask when you're considering, you know, am I actually going to be honest here about whatever it is you're going to share? So I've put it, asking yourself these questions may help you consider if and when it's right to have the conversation. Because I don't necessarily, I think, believe that in every single situation, in every single moment, with every single person, you have to and need to be absolutely 100% completely honest all of the time. I think it's quite important to consider what that really means, as I said, in context. So I think considering some of these questions when you're thinking, you know, is it of worth for everyone concerned to be honest, consider these number of questions that I've sort of thought about and created. So again, I'll sort of just mention the questions to you. So does it have the opportunity to bring and learn something new? Does it have the potential to expand the relationship? Would it enable kindness and perhaps explore and expand the conversation further? Does it have the potential to enable connection? Now, I've created some of those questions because of the ones I felt were important and pertinent and from my own experience. However, they're not the be-all and end-all. So what I would encourage you to do is when you're thinking about that level of honesty, you know, with yourself and with others, consider what would be your measure, you know, your criteria. What are the key questions that you perhaps feel would actually be helpful and empowering and enable you to be honest with another person or a number of people, whatever that situation is. So that's my first point. A lot of people said that courage was about being honest in relationships. Now, another point that they actually mentioned, and a number of people said this, was that courage was doing something that scares you and helps you to step outside of your comfort zone. So that was another point that people had made. So I'll say it again, doing something that scares you and helps you step outside of your comfort zone. Now, I was thinking to myself, you know, feeling scared and, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone, I think it's relative to, you know, all people concerned, but it's also going to be very different depending upon your experience, the context of, you know, previous experiences that you've had. And so this will mean different things to different people. And because that's the case, it's pointless comparing yourself to others, as they're going to have different thoughts and different ideas. So, for example, this idea of stepping out your comfort zone. I mentioned earlier in the week that, you know, we sort of moved, and so I was going to find another park to take Willow. Now, for me, going to a park whereby I'd never been there before, I'd not even done a dry run without Willow. I think that could be, you know, perhaps somebody else's difference as well. So I hadn't even done a dry run, so, and it was early morning, so it was actually still quite dark. I had Googled and looked at what might be around, but I still wasn't completely sure where I was going. And so there was a little bit of, ooh, you know, and I've got Willow in the car and I can't quite find it. I'm going to be going up and down around in circles. You know, it might not be so great. But, and I didn't find it straight away, but eventually I did. And I actually felt quite good about that, you know, quite sort of, yeah, quite confident that I'd done it off my own back. I'd sort of found it eventually, and that, yeah, it felt like a sort of achievement, a success, if you like. And I sort of thought to myself, you know, what that will do is, because I've already taken the step to do that once, what that will mean is I'm more likely to take that step again, and not only take that step again, but I'm probably more likely to go a bit further afield, to consider a different place, you know, to go to a bigger place or somewhere that might take a little bit longer. And but here, stepping out of your comfort zone actually therefore begins to expand your world, and your world becomes bigger, and the opportunities can become more than and bigger within that. But I just wanted to sort of point out that, you know, for somebody else hearing me saying, oh, I felt that was stepping outside my comfort zone a little bit, somebody else would be thinking, you know, oh, that's nothing, and that's fair enough. That's why I say, you know, it's relative. But the relative piece is, the more you do it, and whatever that means for you, the more you're able to do it, and the bigger the things, you know, are then that you can begin to develop and explore. So I think that's quite important. And I think for every single person, just take that bit of time and a moment to consider, well, what does that mean for you personally? You know, not what it means for others. Don't worry about what others think about it, but what is it? Even if the step is, you know, really quite small, it doesn't matter. You know, at the end of the day, as long as it's a step in the direction of coming out your comfort zone a little bit, that's the key. That's the most important. Now, a third point that, interestingly, a number of people had said this was what courage also meant to them, was taking responsibility for your own actions and thoughts. I thought, oh, that's an interesting one. Taking responsibility for your own actions and thoughts. Now, for me personally, I think that this for me connects back to being honest. For me, it may mean different things to different people, but I could see the connection with being honest. And I was reflecting on this, and I've put here, you know, rather than blaming, for example, another person. So I was thinking, my partner had said something, and I didn't like it for whatever reason. I felt a bit annoyed with it. And what I noticed was that quite quickly, without thinking about it too much, I had actually said something back in a tone which, you know, I felt was a bit dismissive. And I remember walking away at one point, and then I actually came back to the conversation, and what I did was I apologised for the way I'd responded. And so what struck me when I was reflecting on this piece was, I thought, I recognised I was taking my part of my responsibility. That was my part to play, you know, in terms of that particular communication. And I've reflected and put, just because someone else says or does something that I may not like, it does not mean I have to respond in a defensive or attacking way. There's a difference between taking responsibility for my part versus apologising for the whole conversation or situation. I find at times that's what I think people tend to do, rather than just, you know, claiming taking responsibility for one piece. They'll often apologise for the whole thing. And I've made a note here, and I've put, if I was to do that, if I was to apologise for the whole conversation, the whole situation that went on, then actually I wouldn't be giving the other person an opportunity to take responsibility for themselves and their part to play. In fact, what I would potentially be doing is playing the part of the rescuer in that particular situation. And in a way, doing that, and a lot of people do fall into that trap, it almost makes it okay for another person. You know, it makes it easier in some way. What it doesn't mean is that it's going to empower them to you know, take responsibility for who they are and their part to play. So I think it's quite important. It's very, it can be quite subtle at times, but it's easy to fall into that space of rescuing others, when in actual fact this is about taking responsibility for your part to play and allowing somebody else to, and then it becomes more empowering, and more adult-like as well, I think, you know, all round in that example. So just to sort of recap, the 3 key points that I've shared that, as I said, came from this research I did with other coaches. So they said courage was also about being honest in all relationships, doing something that scares you and helps you to step out of your comfort zone, and thirdly, taking responsibility for your own thoughts and actions. So that's my sort of main piece around the key points I wanted to share. What I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to share two of my poems, as always. I normally share at least one. So the first one I'm going to share with you is called The Fortress. So this is my first one. Fortress, playful, playing, play fighting, flying animals, turning into chaos, creating chaos. Chaos ensues. Tactics, taking sides, collecting what? Collecting wits about you, collecting ammunition, creeping, stealthily, getting closer, instigating, creating, then stepping back, stepping out, trying to undo what's been done, but struggling. It's taking longer than when I started, than when you started. Collecting, collective, massing ammunition together. Attack, attention, protect, attack, defend, behind the back. Watch my back. Who's got your back? Do you have my back? Flow, flowing in unison. Movement as one, a collective, together, connecting through movement. Flow and colour. Space to move, space to create, space to breathe, space to explore, space to be. So that was my first one, that was called Fortress. My second one is called More Than. Being with, giving to others, giving of yourself, receiving, being receptive to receiving, rejecting, not wanting, not needing, needing something else, something to nurture, to change, to shift, to be with, to sit with, to be with it all, and know you are more than the problem, more than the illness, more than the circumstance, more than the disease, more than the label. We are all more than. To get in touch with more than. To dare to be more than. To be more than enough. And that was called More Than. Now I've also got a little book I've had for a long time. The actual book, you can see that, guys. So it's called A Special Gift of Hope and Courage, a Helen Exley gift book. And I was looking through it earlier on, and there's one particular page which I just thought, yeah, I'm going to share that today. It's only a very small passage, and it's by a lady called Pam Brown in 1928 is when it was identified, and the title is called A Certain Kind of Courage. There is the courage that blazes in a sudden rush of adrenaline, the courage that achieves outrageous feats of daring. And there is the courage that is built from fear and hesitation on long endurance and quiet determination. The courage that weighs the odds and still goes forward. The courage that faces pain and near despair with a hopeful heart and lifts the spirit of all around. The desolate, the very old, the very young, those facing unknown terrors. They have no accolades, only respect and awe and gratitude, only love. And that was by Pam Brown, and it's called A Certain Kind of Courage. I really love that, actually. I'm going to read that once more. There is the courage that blazes in a sudden rush of adrenaline, the courage that achieves outrageous feats of daring. And there is the courage that is built from fear and hesitation on long endurance and quiet determination. The courage that weighs the odds and still goes forward. The courage that faces pain and near despair with a hopeful heart and lifts the spirits of all around. The desolate, the very old, the very young, those facing unknown terrors. They have no accolades, only respect and awe and gratitude, only love. I thought that was really beautiful. So, come to that moment where I'm going to attempt, I always say attempt because I'm no singer, no matter what anyone thinks. So I'm going to share a song with you all. This particular version, there's a couple of different versions. This one in particular, the one I'm going to sort of share with you, is actually by Barry Manilow, but it's also joined by Robbie Williams and Gary Barlow. It was for originally for BBC Children in Need. So I know that I love both versions, actually, so I thought I'd choose one that perhaps had a bit of a mix of both. That's why I actually chose this one in the end. So if you just bear with me, guys, I'm just going to play it for you. Spirit move me every time I'm near you, whirling like a cyclone in my mind. Oh, sweet Peter, angel of my lifetime, answer to all answers I can find. Baby, I want you, come, come, come into my arms. Let me know the wonder of all of you. Baby, I want you, no, 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 and hold on last. Could this be your magic at last? Remember I said it's been joined as well, Robbie Williams and Gary Barlow. Baby, take me high upon a hillside, high up where the stallion meets the sun. I could love you, build my world around you, never leave you till my life is done. Baby, I want you, come, come, come into my arms. Let me know the magic at last. Could it be magic? Come, come, come into my arms. Could this be the magic at last? Could it be magic? Come, come, come into my arms. Let this be the magic at last. Could it be magic now? Now, hold me in your arms. Let me be the magic at last. At last. So that was Barry Manilow with Robbie Williams and Gary Barlow as well. But obviously originally it was Barry Manilow. Thank you, Mandy. I know that, yeah, great song actually. In fact, to be frank, I really like Barry. Yeah, I love a number of the old ones, or the more mature ones, as we will say. So guys, that's it for my Sunday Live. For those of you who may not have been able to watch, but you end up watching afterwards, then welcome. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something from it, whether that be from what I was sharing about what can mean courage for different people, whether it be a couple of the poems that I shared. Also that, I found that beautiful passage, as I said, from that book by Special Gift of Hope and Courage. I thought that was really sort of lovely and pertinent. Or maybe a little bit of magic. More the magic from Barry Manilow and Gary and Robbie than I think from myself, to be fair. But listen guys, have the rest of a good evening, a great week, and yeah, just really think about when you're being honest and when you're having your conversations with people and you're being who you are in the world. I think asking yourself a couple of those questions I mentioned earlier on can just make a bit of a difference for you to make some decisions in what's right going forward. So, real privilege. Thank you guys. Lots of warmth, lots of sparkle, lots of hugs. Yeah, and all good stuff that makes you feel really good. And I shall speak to you real soon. Take care, guys. Bye.